So now we're on to our Maori drawing. So you're going to start by drawing a circle on your paper, and then you're going to add in these items. It doesn't matter what order you add them into. It's just take whatever attracts you and start drawing. Now I want you to turn off this for the moment. Just put it on pause. So and do your drawing. Just spend a bit of time drawing these items, and when we come back, we'll explore what your subconscious is showing you. So make sure you put it on pause now, and we'll talk in a minute. Okay. Okay, so here we are back. First thing to notice, just make a note of what you drew first. We'll talk about that a bit later. So to start off with, just look at your drawing and see, did you choose a vertical aspect or a horizontal aspect as your plane? So portrait or landscape. If you chose the vertical aspect, the portrait aspect, then there's more something more about inner healing that's going on. So this is more on the mental, emotional, or spiritual planes. If you drew a more horizontal drawing, then it's something about outer healing. So this may be with your relationships, it may be with your body, it may be with your career, it could be, but it's something in the external world that there is a healing that you're in the process of doing. Feel free to put this on pause anytime when you want to just kind of think about it and make a few notes. Next, take your paper and fold it into 4, and notice how full or empty each area is. So if you have, so this example here is a drawing that would be done on the horizontal plane. So just notice these different areas and notice which ones are full and which ones are empty. So if they're empty, it may be that you need to bring a bit more stillness in that area to bring it to fruition. So to really bring out the potential in that area, you may need a bit more stillness and a bit less activity. If you've put in a lot of the symbols, then it can be where your consciousness and your focus is really focused, or it could be that it needs a bit more activity in that area, and some of those symbols might tell you what that could be. So we'll talk about what each of the symbols means a little bit later, but first of all, let's just look at those planes. So the Valley of the Birds, which is in your upper left, is your mental plane. So the items that you drew in this area are metaphorically supporting your mental health and wellness. If you drew your bird in this area, so your bird is about your mental health and wellness, then any disease that you have in your life is not mental, because this is the valley it lives. If you didn't draw it in this area, it doesn't matter. There'll be some intelligence about it that you'll get from where you did draw it, and it may just be that you don't need any support in that mental area. In the Valley of the Mountains, which is in your upper right hand side, this is your spiritual plane. So the items you drew here support your spiritual self and your vitality. Your mountain is the native to this area, so if it is residing here, then any disease in your life is not coming from your spiritual interaction, your spiritual self. So if it's not there, don't worry, it's just maybe that you don't need any support in your spiritual area at the moment. The lower left is your Valley of the Flowers. So this is your emotional plane and your emotional health and wellness. So if your flower, the flower is a symbol of your emotional health and wellness. So if you have it in this area, then any disease in your life is not coming from that emotional area. It may feel like it is, but it could be that your thoughts are taking over and dictating your emotional life. So, and if you don't have your flower here, then that's fine. It just may be that you don't need any support that area. Finally, your lower right is your valley of the trees. So this is your physical plane. So these are the items that support things like your health, your finances, your work, your creativity. And this area also represents the ability to manifest in your life. So if you have any part of your tree in this area, then any disease you have is not actually coming from the external world. It is something more of an internal nature. If it's not in this area, that's fine. It just may be that you don't need any support in this area. It doesn't mean that it is coming from this area. It just means that you might not. So you just look at it and notice. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take some wisdom from your drawing by considering how you drew each of the items and the proximity to each other, whether you decorated them, just having a look at all of that. So to start, the bird, which is the universal symbol of the messenger. So this bird symbolizes communication, which is essential in the mental plane. That's why it's native to there. Wherever it lies, you may have communication that's needed in that area. So if it's in your spiritual, it may be that there is some spiritual messages that are available to you. In your physical, it may be that your body is trying to tell you something. In your emotional area, there may be somebody that you need to speak to, some emotions you need to share or to delve into. So just noticing where they are. And remember, anytime along here you want to make any notes or think about what I'm talking about, just put the recording on hold and then come back to it in a moment. Your mountain is symbolizing your quest, your dream, or your spiritual journey. And again, notice that the area that it lives in, where did you draw it? That's going to give you some hint about where your spiritual journey is at the moment, where you're growing spiritually. It's going to give you some hints about your quest and your dreams. Your flower is the symbol of the emotional world, and it's signifying an opening or an unfolding that's actually going away. So wherever it lies is hinting at where that may be experienced. So if you have, for example, in your spiritual space, you drew a flower, then it could be that there's some spiritual unfolding going on. Let's say you drew a very ornate, beautiful rose opening. Then maybe there's something about love and spirituality that's going on. This is why you really think about what you drew in each item. And if you didn't draw it in a complex manner, that's fine. Some people just draw very simply, and that doesn't mean that it's not, that there's anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. It just means what you take from it. So just take from it what is right for you. Your tree is your evolutionary growth, and it's a symbol of your past, your present, and your future. So your roots are your past. So if you've drawn them, then it's more about being visible. You're quite happy to share your past with others. And if you haven't drawn them, it doesn't mean that there's nothing bad about it. Neither bad nor good, any of this. But if they're not drawn, it's just that they're more hidden and you prefer to choose who you share them with. You could notice about how you drew them. Did you draw them very with lots of intricacy, or did you just draw them as a few lines? You can take some intelligence from that. Your trunk is your present. So this is the place where you are most willing to show up and be present in. So wherever you drew your trunk, this is your one of your strengths, where your present work is. So if you drew it in the physical plane, then you're very much about physically being here in the world. That's where you're showing up, and where you're working with at the moment. If you drew it in the emotional plane, then you're really working with your emotions. If you drew it in more than one, then you're working with all of those planes. You know, so if you drew it, let's say you drew it in your, it's in your physical, your emotional, and your mental. Well, in all those areas you're showing up. So it's just having a look at where this lies. And your branches are what you're reaching for. So this is what you want to harvest or bring to fruition. And the area, the plane that it's in, is the place where you're wanting to harvest from. So for example, if you're reaching up into the mental plane, you're wanting to harvest some new ideas. Notice if you added things like fruit, you know, perhaps that is that there is some fruition already happening. Blossoms could be an unfolding in that area around those new things you're wanting to harvest. So just notice and take some intelligence, whatever it is. This isn't about thinking it through, not that kind of intelligence, more that kind of knowing of and listening to what your drawing is sharing with you, and what your subconscious has to tell you. So a Maori elder would say that if you drew each of these symbols in its appropriate plane, then any dis-ease in your life is an illusion and your life is in balance. So if every one of those is in the right place, then just have a think about your life. And if it does feel uncomfortable, consider if that is an illusion. You know, we do tend to live in this world which we can get caught up in illusion. With all the social media and all the information about what we should be doing, we can get really caught up, and perhaps our life is actually really good as it is, and we may be missing that. So there may be something there for you to have a look at. So your other symbols, your snake. This is healing, regeneration, and renewal. So if you added, for example, eyes, it could be that you've got a vision to be gathered. A tongue is about communication. If you decorated it, it could be that you need some more beauty in your life. If you decorated the tongue, perhaps you need more beautiful words in your life, perhaps poetry. Maybe you need to write some poetry or read some poetry for your healing. And again, notice what area that this is in. So if this is in, for example, your physical area, then maybe there's some healing and regeneration that is either needed or is going on in your physical body at the moment. If it's in the spiritual, again, you know, just notice which plane it's in, and that's going to give you a hint at where some healing, regeneration, and renewal is going on or is required. Your shelter. So you may have drawn this into a whole house, or it may just have been a really simple shelter. It doesn't matter. Don't worry that you didn't know that you could do anything else. Just see what you actually did. So your shelter is actually your process of creating your identity. And where you drew it is one of your strengths. So if you drew it right in the middle, then you know you really got it all covered. If you drew it down in the emotional plane, then you're really your emotional resilience is a very big support for you. If you drew it through a couple, let's say through your physical and your spiritual, then your strength is in your spiritual and your strength of your body. So just having a look at where you put that. And then notice if you added things such as windows to see out of, or so people could see in, a door so you can welcome people in or keep people out, a chimney to keep warm, you know, just noticing these things and what these could metaphorically mean. A path. So where did you put your path? This is all about structure and discipline, your direction, your goals and ideas. And these are all relevant to whatever area it is they're in. So it may be, for example, if it's in your body area, that there's some discipline that needs to come in and some goals that need to happen in this area. So just noticing where it is. And your butterfly is a symbol of transformation. So the plane that you have that in will be showing you where a recent transformation has happened. So it's going to be where something has just recently transformed and changed. So just notice if you drew a symbol more than once. Now don't worry, I didn't say whether you could do it more or less than once. This would have just been your subconscious speaking. And if you did draw a symbol more than once, it could be an area that needs to be intensified or experienced in several ways. If you fussed a lot about a symbol, getting it right, this could be a place of unlimited healing or creativity for you this year. So let's say you fussed over your flower. It could be that there is a whole unfolding that's going on for you in the emotional, around emotions this year, and around creativity. If you added in other symbols, so these show you ways you already know how to heal yourself. So for example, you may have put in a still pond, and there may be something about that stillness of that pond. Or the sun, and there could be something about the light brightness of the sun. So just notice what those other symbols are, and they are ways you already know how to heal yourself. If you had an area that was hard to draw, it shows you an area that may require a bit of extra attention. So it might need just a little tweak. And if you forgot a symbol, so you went, oh my God, I completely forgot to put in whatever it was. So that could be an area that you just have outgrown, or it could be something that you really need to put into your life. So just notice and use your own knowing of whether it's, nope, been there, done that, or I need to bring more of that into my life. The largest item you drew holds the most identity, and it's a very important key to your well-being, so it's a really important thing to notice. And the smallest item is an area that's just emerging. It may be unknown. You might have drawn some tiny little butterflies, for example. There may be some transformation that's happening that you haven't recognized yet. The first item you drew is something that you know. It's a process you know and is really important to you. And anything that you drew outside of the circle is often where you want no limitations. So have a think about these things and allow yourself to gather the information that your subconscious has put on this piece of paper for you. Bye for now.